1980, okay? But things being what they were, at that time, they printed many, many less of this than they did of these other books I did, which, you know, some of them sold literally millions, which is astonishing to think about now. But it actually happened. But this book didn't. They printed like 120,000, God knows if they sold 60 or 70. But it was worth reissuing because so many people kept telling me, gee, they love that book, but nobody's seen it. So I'm going to read a little bit from it. The main thing about it is I was obsessed with, as I always have been. I don't know, which one is which?
We're trying.
You have 3 cups now.
One
One is water, one is vodka,
that
and
smells
one
like
is
whiskey,
ginger ale.
and that can't be mine. You know, it was, these are great glasses, right? They don't fit and they're useless. It's got a John Lennon look.
Yeah, more white.
I used to have the hair for it. Oh my God, they're not good at all.
I think your hair's
Anyway, we did it.
Lyndon wouldn't have the hair for it anymore either.
I don't want to listen to guy. You look like the other type, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Rather the, I love them though, the punk rockers. All right, well, I wrote down how long this book should
Punk
read.
rockers.
I'm probably wrong, but it said 3 minutes for that part. It'll probably read 6 minutes, and I'm going to also read a tiny piece of part of my memoir, which is fascinating to me. It's going to be an embarrassing thing, but not. I was going to read an even more
I think it's a
embarrassing
classic
one.
piece of New York beat writing. I've read your memoirs. Yeah.
You didn't read.
Yeah, I did.
Where did you get my memoir?
A while, like 3 in 2011. I read the first one.
Yeah, I know, but I changed it a lot. The whole thing about writing about your own history, you're entitled to change it when it makes sense to do so. And that's what I've been up to. But this is one of the most embarrassing things, but the worst one I wouldn't read because my daughter's here. So I'm reading this one instead. I wish I could have read it, it's great. I could tell you about it, you know, privately, it's pretty good. Well, this is from this book. This book, I've done all these possible books, and I wanted to do another book. And this one was, I was obsessed with Raymond Chandler and all that kind of literature, film noir. I love all that. And I said, you know, why not let that influence how I write about the imaginary Middle Ages, which these are, the Arthurian period, and see what would happen because my characters have a lot of those characteristics I thought anyway. So this is a very brief excerpt from this, which began as I wrote it as a novella because they paid me to write a novella for some anthology. Afterwards, after I wrote that, these people, publishers said, why don't you do a novel based on it? Okay, I'll do a novel based on it. Excuse me, I really didn't want to, but I did. And I never was happy with it until people like Led Butts and others, who's been a great supporter of mine since high school, apparently. He, a long time ago. Like you were in high school very recently, right? Like 10 years ago now. Anyway, they got me to do it, and I did it, and I never was that happy about it because I didn't like the way in which I undertook it. But it turned out it was okay, according to Les Butts and other people.
It's great.
You think it's great? Well, I'm happy to hear
Is
that.
it safe to say it's the first hard-boiled Arthurian?
It's probably the only
novel?
hard-boiled. And some guy who doesn't know me, and when this was published, this guy didn't know me from Adam. He wrote a review which exactly hit on it. You know, it was very nice of him. He said, you know, it like floated Raymond Chandler's boat. That's all I wanted to do with this. Even though it's about Morgana and Parsifal and goes on into extreme adventures, which I like to do. Anyway, let me start. I'm tired of talking. We came out of the forest. Across a blue-green Russian field, an immense castle towered. The sun was going down behind it, and the crenellated shadow reached toward us like an immense road of darkness. That's the kind of thing. And I need help, she said, desperately, a woman. Naturally, chivalry binds me to your service. Without chivalry, I said, the world will no longer be perfect. And she says, you may even be too cynical for court life. He says, I've retired. Halt the steed here. We reined up. The charger began to browse the dimming ground. I twisted around the saddle. The twilight had deepened. Her substance was just hinted. Yes, I waited. My life is in danger, she said. I was fleeing when you found me. and yet my welfare is of less importance than the mission I have undertaken. I was interested. The famous witch, Morgana. Amusing. You don't seem out of breath, I said, from fleeing. Notwithstanding, I fled. Death was close. When isn't it? The twilight gradually melted us together. Her face came nearer. I could feel her scented breath. You've heard of the Holy Grail, I trust, she asked. I snorted. Didn't quite chuckle, as what night has not? A child's tale, I suggested, waiting. Things hidden are not things false. Since the Grail was brought to this land, the chosen few have always guarded it through generations. The Grail is power, many seek it always. There was a time when people believed I'd found the damn thing, and followed me, tortured me, ruined whatever of my life I'd left unspoiled, hounding me out of the country. Farewell, lady, I almost said. I wish I had. What kind of power? A strong smell? Just not, she said, with an edge now. She was used to commanding, and I was getting used to not obeying. These are deep matters. Oh. I once worried about deep matters and magic and mystery. I shrugged. What happened to your vassals? I peered around to the glimmering that was dying into night. The castle was a depthless shape against the sky. We were ambushed. My loyal servants died for the holy mission. She found my bare hands and firmly held them. Her voice was vibrant, and I heard the tears I couldn't see. She seemed so young, determined, and strong, yet softly vulnerable. I was touched. Her hands felt good. I felt myself starting to drift. So now I cast myself upon your honor. You have a cynic's voice, but I read grace in your heart. All right, I said. Her touch was a promise in the dreaming dusk. I've taken the bait. Draw me in at your pleasure, Lady Morgana. Scented breath, and then a kiss so light and soft I thought of a butterfly flicker. Thank you, sir, she said. Sir whom? Is your name covered over by a vow of good sense, which I've just broken, my lady. I hope she tried for another kiss, you didn't. My name is Parsifal. Most would have known me by the ruby red armor. Ah, and you pretend to know nothing of the Grail, you of all knights? Her voice seemed older now. That was all moon spinning. I was a boy then. Suddenly shadows leaped and jingled already far too close. The kiss had distracted me. I drew and slashed too late, aware I'd already let her down, wondering how many had been hiding in the brush here. Had they expected me or her? My head burst in white fire, and I was gone. Then images spilled over me like surf. I floated in deep darkness, greenish dimness, the blinding surface far, far above, drifted and was held, tangled somehow. Gleaming eyes watched, and then a pale fire swam over me. Graceful and long hands felt me. Sharp teeth nibbled softly as underwater wind, hurting and soothing and luminescent dreaming. Tender sharpness stirred deep into my body, and I couldn't tell myself when the wash of hungry need pulsed and probed into me, mercilessly sweet. When I woke up, I assumed obscurely that I was dead. I was naked, the world was colorless and muffled in the gray light of limbo. Everything was too soft and cloying. I kept blinking, and when I shifted my head, surprised to find it on my shoulders, the pain told me I was still in the thick of things. Daylight filtered down from slewed apertures high in the buttress ceiling. The floors were deeply cushioned by rugs, and I seemed to be laid out on silk cushions, very comfortable, except for my skull. When I tried to touch the wound, I discovered the next hair in the egg. My wrists were chained above my head. I sighed and groaned faintly. Nothing was ever easy. Every time I kissed somebody, trouble followed a breath later. 17, the first woman I had a husband who tracked me for years. The second one I had to marry. The third hurt my feelings. The fourth left. And somebody always wanted to kill me. Just very briefly, because this is pretty brief. You can all see, I call you the witness, it's only 3 pages, and they're pretty wide space, so you don't have to worry about it being too bored. I'm going to read a piece of the actual memoirs of the actual life. Let's call it a docudrama, because I think everybody writes their biography or memoirs, it's like docudrama. You alter the language, you know what you said. My visual memory, I have to say, and I hate to say this in public, but it's absolutely perfect. But what I remember, no, it's visually, but what I remember what people said and I said, that tends to improve over time. And this is called a pay phone call. What do you want me to say? But you know, I'm doing my best. This is like in my teenage days, you know, and up to this point, and even beyond this point, as you'll soon see, I had never got beyond first or second base with anybody, okay? And it was beginning to frustrate me. My old man thought I might be gay and gave me a book on being gay, which was pretty cool. For a New York City cop in, you know, in the 19th century. I mean, no, really, seriously. It was a great day.
Wait, how old are you?
A long time ago. It was a long time ago. But he gave me this book called, you know, I can't remember the name now, but it was pretty funny. All that glitters is not guilt, or something like that. It was a great book. And it was designed to make me not feel that always having guys over. I always had men coming in, my boys come to my house, but that was because I was afraid of the girls and they were with my friends. When the girls came after me, I hid in the bathroom, which made them wonder. So, there was all this going into this. Meanwhile, I was insanely in love, and usually with bad girls. See, I didn't like anybody who even remotely resembled somebody who'd go to church and be nice. I wanted the tough chicks, you know, the bad chicks. And I fell in love with this girl I'd seen once or twice. This is the truth, you know that. She was an Italian girl, part of, you know, like a gang type of thing, you know, and this guy told me, oh, call her up. He probably knows the guy, you know, okay. So this is when I called her up. And I think I did a marvelous job. It's a chapter in the memoirs which you can't get yet, but maybe thanks to Lev Butts and Scott and them, maybe 3 months from now it will be available. So keep me in mind. The call didn't really change anything overtly, but left a deep and ineradicable mark on my soul and psyche. There was this totally hot Italian girl who exists in memory, dimmed and distorted by psychological fog. An exotically beautiful gang chick with a Debs jacket to prove it. In those simple times, a girl adjunct to a gang might have the gang version of a high school jacket. That's true. Inscribed something Debs. You know, you'd be like the Joker Debs or the Killer Debs, you know, the Ford and Baldy Debs. There were things called the Ford and Baldies then. I had some adventures with them. In real social mockery, it meant debutantes, okay? Which is pretty funny. If there are any here tonight, well, it's not, I know one's missing. Because of the mist of denial, her name comes back to me like one of those terse predictions in the Mystic 8 Ball. Anybody remember that? The Mystic 8 Ball? Okay. Like, try again later, or not at this time. Her name was something like Donna or Marie. I was smitten and encouraged to take a shot at love by a pal. True. So I went, I called, was conquered. Paced up and down in front of the phone booth, at that time made of wood and glass. There were the booths then, you know, wood and glass booth. You open them up. And, and a folding door. The booth seemed instinct with menace, sweated and chain smoked my Marlboros, rehearsed my hello and subsequent dialogue. Because you try to practice, because you know you can do it. You guys know it, some of them maybe, except for total winners. Have you ever been a total winner? I never met a total winner. Not even me. I finally took the plunge as the sun was setting behind St. John's Church and mellow cold red light was spilling along Yonkers Avenue. Yonkers Avenue, think about that. Late summer, time to ask for a date. Call Marie. Let's say Marie. With the dark, sinful eyes, and olive translucent skin, and knowing lips. She had knowing lips. Stomach flip-flopping with dread. I dialed and some parent or maybe brother or maybe worse picked it up. I said, Marie, please. Who are you? The evening's theme, it turned out. A friend from school, a mocking chuckle. Since when did she go to school? No pause. Hey, Marie, you got a phone call, some guy. That was great. I shuddered and sucked in the smoke, worse than the dentist. Yeah, asked Marie. I could see a maddening face, the expressionless expression of pure insouciance. In other words, she was really hot. Hey, Marie, what is this? Ave Marie. That's not your name. Could have been your name. My memory is unreliable here due to post-romantic stress. Right then I was seized up with fear and longing like an engine out of oil. Too late to stop, a chill pause. Richard Monaco. Who? Pointed that exotic, slightly nasal voice. You know, I said, hopeless bubbles of blather popping out of my mouth. Ronnie's friend. Ronnie Pico? Whoever that was. No, Malara, Ronnie Malara. Malaria? That was it. I know Bobby D, I said, and what do you want? Thinking fast, I'd have hung up if I hadn't given my name. The thought flashed, if never asked, I could say it wasn't me, it was somebody, you know, fucking with her. What did I want? By now I had no idea. I dropped the first cigarette and lit another as the Inquisition continued to smoke. What I was full of, I can't say. You know, I was just wondering, you know, maybe if you'd like to, you know. Didn't know and still don't. The whirlpool of teenage humiliation sucked me under. Like the what, she went on. I took it as cruelty. Just hang up. Say wrong number. Anything. Blah, 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 blah. I seemed to answer. No more, dear reader. No more. We must draw a kindly and seemly veil over this trauma. That night in my dreams, the phone book chased me. As Goethe's bell chased and killed the child who had Sunday school. Well, anyway. I was going to read the other, but I figured my daughter's here.
Let's hear it.
No, I don't have it. I purposely didn't bring it because I would be tempted to read it. You know, my first romantic experience that was consummated. This one clearly wasn't. This was my entire life. My entire life is affected by this girl or whatever her name was. If I call them up, they're going to reject me.
You sure you don't want something?
I don't have it.
Yeah.
We'd have to print it, and there's no time for that. But it was pretty funny. It involved me stealing my father's stuff, you know, that he used when he made love to my mother, and I couldn't open it because it was a strange sealed in plastic thing. He had a hit with a chisel crack. I don't know how I was born. But that's all in the memoir.
Did he know that you
came
was
out, let me tell you, you know, you probably get a few laughs. You like this, you like them. My life is pretty funny. That's some of the funniest stuff. But that's really true. I mean, that affected me forever. I was always afraid to call anybody up like that. They had to, like, send me a note saying, I swear to God, I like you. Really.